Hello everyone and welcome back to Ravade Reads. Today I'll be starting the final series in the Marvel Colors collection from Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, which is Captain America White. I've already gone through the previous stories, which are Daredevil Yellow, Spider-Man Blue, and Hulk Gray, so you can go check those out if you want to, but you don't have to watch them before you watch this. Like the previous Marvel Colors stories, this focuses on a character's early days juxtaposed with their loss of a loved one. The main difference here is that this focuses on the friendship of Steve and Bucky, which is not romantic unlike the other stories. A key thing to note here is that while this series came out after Bucky returned as the Winter Soldier, the idea was conceived before that story, so don't expect him to be showing up in that form. To begin, we're starting off with book 0. That's right, things start off with a book 0, which I believe was supposed to act as a sort of build-up to the actual start of things in book 1. However, constant delays caused book 0 to release years before the rest of the series. Book 0 was released in 2008. Which is already a few years after the previous stories, but the rest of the books in this series didn't release until 7 years later in 2015. Seeing as I haven't read this yet, it'll be interesting to see if there's any noticeable change given the time gap. So that's enough background. Let's begin with book 0, It Happened One Night. The story begins in the 1940s with Steve and Bucky going to see a movie, which happens to show footage of Captain America. Unlike the movies, Bucky is much younger than Steve, and Steve's identity as Captain America isn't common knowledge. When they get back to the military base, Bucky discovers that Steve is Captain America and asks him to train him. Steve agrees, and during the narration from Steve in the present day, he wonders what he could have done to prevent Bucky from getting involved in all of this. Some time passes, Bucky gets his first suit, he's fully trained, and the two go on their first mission. On their first mission, Bucky almost dies, and Steve is kind of harsh with him and tells him that, the war is not like what it is in the movies. In his narration, he wonders if he should have been even tougher on him, because maybe he wouldn't have died. For an issue 0, it's not bad, I guess. It really just is the origin story of Bucky and sets some things up for the future, although I suppose this could have been done quickly in the beginning of the first actual issue rather than having a whole issue dedicated to it. Anyway, looking at this book, it kind of makes me appreciate the differences and changes made to Captain America in the MCU. For example, Bucky being the same age as Steve gives them a closer friendship, and I don't really get why Cap even has a secret identity here in the war. Like, why does it even matter? Regardless, let's see how things pick up in book 1, You Can't Take It With You. Steve recounts when he first woke up out of the ice after being frozen for decades, meeting the Avengers, and how his whole life was turned upside down. The one person still alive that he knew from World War II was Nick Fury, who gives Steve his and Bucky's medals of honor, but Steve says he just wants to be alone because he blames himself for Bucky's death. We then cut back to World War II with Cap and Bucky saving Fury and Dum Dum Dugan from Nazis in North Africa, although it's clear that Fury doesn't really like them. Afterwards, there's this scene of Steve telling Bucky that he can't go to a club because he's too young, and then there's a bar fight that happens. I'm not really sure what the point of this whole scene was. Anyway, after that, they go on a mission, and it's clear again that Fury and Cap don't really like each other too much at this point in time. But then the plane blows up, and there's a big cliffhanger. I didn't really find this issue particularly interesting. I mean, it's only the second one, but not much really happens, it seems, even with the cliffhanger, since we know Bucky isn't going to die this early on. Let's see what happens after last issue's cliffhanger in Book 2, Lost Horizon. After the plane carrying Captain America, Bucky, Nick Fury, and the Howling Commandos crash, Bucky swims down to save Cap, but has to leave his shield behind at the bottom of the ocean. Cap in the present day is narrating of how he knows more than most about holding on to the past longer than you should, and how we tend to get attached to objects rather than people. As the group makes their way to the shore to rest up before continuing their secret mission, Bucky still feels upset about having to leave Steve's shield behind. I get that it was important, but I don't really know what to say besides just get over yourself already and move on. Who cares about the shield? You saved his life. While the group continue their journey, they come across a mountain in their path. Instead of just going around it, Captain America decides that they have to climb it for some reason. But they don't have anything to dig into the side and, make ridges to climb on, like Cap's shield, for example. Luckily, Namor the Submariner shows up out of nowhere to give Cap his shield and just leaves immediately. They climb up the mountain, and at the top they find a tank pointed right at them. This is the first issue of all the Marvel Colors books that I can firmly say I thought was bad. Fury in World War II is annoying. He just won't shut up every time Cap tries to speak. Bucky just can't stop feeling sorry for himself when he loses Cap's shield. It just gets old. Just when they need his shield the most, Namor shows up completely out of nowhere to give it back to them. No context at all. I know that in the comics, Cap knew him at this point in time, but never is that elaborated on, and is just a perfect example of a Deus Ex Machina. So why not just go around the mountain? I don't know, this is a dumb issue, it's just stupid. Well, hopefully book 3, A Hole in the Head, will be better. Continuing after the last issue, Steve manages to fight off the Nazis who've captured them while continuing to lament the fact that he involved Bucky into all these conflicts. After taking down the Nazis, the group dress up as them, pretending to take Cap and Bucky prisoner. While walking through the woods, they encounter a French resistance group that they team up with. While making their way through some tunnels that the group is leading them through, they find a passage that leads them to a Nazi base where they find the Red Skull. Well, this issue was certainly better than the last one. Not really sure why they couldn't just take parts of the previous issue and mix it with this one. Like, I don't know why it needed to continue that trend of being a 6-issue series if they could have told it better in 5 issues, but whatever. Let's read through book 4, Pocketful of Miracles. The book opens as the good guys observe the Red Skull's speech to France now that the Nazis have taken Paris. Cap wants to charge in headfirst for an attack, but Marilyn, leader of the French resistance, stops him. Cap thinks back to his own thought process back then of how he viewed the world in terms of black and white and the argument that the two had about how to handle the situation. When they get back, Bucky spies on Steve and Marilyn while she fixes the strap on his shield. Steve hears something outside the room and opens the door real quick, accidentally giving Bucky a black eye. After Fury gives the rundown of their plan to stop some Nazis from destroying a museum, Steve goes to check on Bucky, who's upset and feels that Steve doesn't believe in him anymore, partly because of that one time he had to leave his shield behind. When the group gets to the museum, Steve learns that Bucky has gone on his own after the Red Skull at the Eiffel Tower. Steve makes it to the Eiffel Tower in search of Bucky when it is revealed that one of the French resistance members was a double agent, causing Baron von Strucker to capture the group. At the same time, Cap finds that the Red Skull has kidnapped Bucky, and he must decide between the fate of Paris or Bucky's life. This issue was kind of boring. Bucky complains too much, and we obviously know that both Paris and Bucky are going to survive this, since Bucky doesn't die until a few years later. This one just didn't really do anything for me. And now, the final book of the entire Marvel Colors collection, Book 5, It's a Wonderful Life. Captain America goes after the Red Skull, only thinking about saving Bucky. It seems that in his haste, he wasn't really thinking beyond himself and what would happen to Paris as a whole. At the same time, a fight breaks out between the Nazis and the Resistance, leading to the death of Olivier, the man who sold them out, who revealed before he dies that he thought he could save the French members of the group if he gave up the Americans. Cap manages to defeat the Red Skull, causing him to explode, and land safely off the Eiffel Tower with Bucky, where Fury and the other freedom fighters just happen to be. As Cap tries to warn them that the tower is rigged to explode, it just conveniently happens that blowing up the Red Skull also destroyed the detonator for the bombs on the tower. Before Cap and Bucky leave to follow their new orders, he shares a kiss with Marilyn and makes good with Fury. 1 month after Cap wakes up in the present day, he and Fury visit his and Bucky's memorial site, where he destroys his own statue and rides off, thinking back on how Bucky was just a kid wanting to win the war. At this point, I'm kind of over this series. I didn't really care for any of the characters. The conflict in this book was resolved so quickly with no repercussions, and Cap doesn't even really move on or learn anything in the end. But that's going to do it for Captain America White. To be honest, if you ask me, I would not recommend this book. Granted, you can go check it out if you want, but I personally wasn't a fan. For me, it is easily the worst of the Marvel Colors books. The color white didn't really play a big role in the symbolism. The art wasn't as memorable. I didn't care for any of the characters. Situations were resolved too quickly and too easily, and it just feels like a tired concept of just, Captain America moping around. With Hulk Gray, at least they tried to do something different with it. Ladies, gentlemen, whoever, I am now finished with the entire Marvel Colors collection. Daredevil Yellow, Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Gray, and now Captain America White, all finished. Overall, I thought it was great, even if it does go downhill in the end with the, Captain America White. Didn't really like it that much, but I did enjoy them overall, and I thought this was fun. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time with whatever I do next. I haven't decided yet. Until then, goodbye.